was overseeing it. And I wasn't doing a 100% job on it just because you don't have the time to dig into it all the time. So when it became an issue or a crisis, then you got in and learned what you missed or how you had to bring yourself back up to speed. So it wasn't a steady learning thing all the way across. It was always whenever I needed to, I had to get back into it, and I have to go back through emails and see what I did or what I didn't do. But that was a big part of that, and like I said, there's federal and state grants associated with that that I had done, and there was some cross-training that she's taking on that will give us a lot more organizational knowledge is what I'm trying to get at. So as you see in there, the grant position, the current position is included in the current budget, but the increase is not, and the increase would be $4,368. And part of that, and depends on what the board does and everything, but it's being paid out of the, my position hasn't been filled, and so for now, that's where the funding is coming from. So it's not a full increase or anything, but when things settle out, that goes to your question, that, how will we pay for that?
Well, I support this, and I, at the appropriate time, would be happy to move the resolution.
You're ready.
I was very pleased to hear you mention cross-training. I think that to the degree that it's permissible within job definitions, that having people be cross-trained and able to move to where the work is, and to fill in when people are sick. This is wonderful, and that sort of cooperation is the long-term goal. I know I've heard you enunciate before.
I think you bring out a lot of initiative in people when you do that, when you talk about cross-training. There's a lot of people that might say, well, I gotta stay in my lane, and you may be looking over it to help your neighbor or your fellow worker, that you may give them a hand, and I want people to be able to care about the whole authority, and to be able to give that initiative and ownership of their work.
Sure. And opportunities to learn, many times, people love it. You know, you feel good when you're building your competence.
Yeah, that's a good phrase.
Your motion?
I'll make move the resolution.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Can you recall roll, please?
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten? Yes. Motion carried.
Next, agenda item A2.
This is the upgrade of the CSEA grade 9 position to a grade 12 account supervisor position. Once again, I'm going back to organizational knowledge and what I saw, or what I came up through and what we had before. And 10 or more years ago, we had somebody that was a supervisor of certain individuals in the accounting department, and basically coordinated the work with what they did. And that would go toward, like I said, some of it would be with payroll, some of it would be accounts payable, accounts receivable. The reason for this is kind of unique. This person brings that organizational knowledge, and when I took over this position, I saw that in her, and I believe a lot of that was, I don't know the word for it, was held back for various reasons. And she had a wealth of knowledge that she wanted to share, and she kind of goes to what you said, the initiative there, and I knew she knew. We saw eye to eye on how to make things, how to make things better. And so I felt that she needed to be able to take a supervisory role and teach the people in that department how things are done and how they should be done, which goes to the fact that there wasn't any overlap when a lot of people were hired, and they were just put in there, and it was just fed to them, and they didn't know a lot of state requirements and federal requirements and things there that we get dinged with every so often. So that's my justification for that with the grade 12 account supervisor.
Well, I'm not gonna embarrass her by how long she's been here, but obviously she knows what she's doing, and as Steve has already said, she's one of those who will step up, because I think she has the capabilities and has that background knowledge that we haven't used as much as maybe we should have in the past, and I think this is a good move. So is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten? Yes. Mr. King?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Agenda item A3.
That is a salary upgrade to the grade 12 maintenance supervisor position. Once again, these are some things that I have taken over because we did lose our maintenance supervisor back in 2017 and he was never replaced. And he was the code enforcement officer. I am now the code enforcement officer. The gentleman here has taken over that position, but also there's things that I'm gonna have to turn over to him, and the code enforcement may be one of them, and also he handles currently I get either text or phone calls or emails about anything that goes wrong with buildings or anything from CBP to Coast Guard to anything like that. I've turned a lot of that over to him, so he's basically on call. I'm still available to help around there, but there's just so much I can do with that, and so I've kind of put that onto him. And to be honest with you, what I'm talking about was with this person back in 2017. So that kind of goes to, to help out. I said, fine, I'll do what I can and take on a lot of those things because we had to. And now we still have to. And then I'm just kind of pushing those back onto this position.
Your motion?
So.
Second? Any discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten? Yes. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And item A4.
That is approval of signature authorizations with Tompkins Trust. I need authorization to access the checking accounts and some of the accounts with Tompkins Trust. They were with Mr. Davis and Mr. Russo, and so part of that is I will need a board resolution authorizing my signature, and we are removing Mr. Davis and Mr. Russo from the account.
A motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whitten? Yes. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Agenda item A5.
That is the acceptance of the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure Safety Improvements Grant. It's called CRISI. We received a infrastructure grant for $1 million. $800,000 was from the U.S. Department of Transportation from the Federal Rail Administration, and 20% of that is our responsibility. This is for upgrading of our equipment at the port. It would enable us to get a rail car unloading conveyor, 2 front-end loaders, and 2 conveyors to facilitate freight movement between the railroad, the vessels, and the truck. This is a real important one. We need to really focus on coming up with that $200,000 because to have that equipment will allow us, right now we do use a lot of OMLC's equipment that involves, and it's a pass-through. We charge the client but it increases our rates, but we have to charge for mowing of the equipment. And then also, they get the rental rate on that. So if they bring in a conveyor, we share in the profit, but on that, but they share, it's their equipment, so they share, they get, percentage-wise more of that. So in this case, the return on that 200,000 with the number of projects at the port in the next couple of years would more than get us that money back. Not to mention, it would probably, if we go at our current rate, within 5 years, that would, it would definitely would be worth, the payback would be very good on that, so.
Now, over since I've been here, the second time around, on the board, and we've had projects down at the port, the windmill project, salt, whatever. I have to admit that the money that we earned from that did not stay at the port.
No.
And because of that, this is what we're facing. This is something that needs to be done because it improves our productivity and our bottom line at the port. So we're lucky enough to receive the grant, and I don't see how we can not do this.
Right. And then you heard me mention dockage and wharfage. Well, in a project, it's not a huge amount of money, but really that money is, the ship is paying to use the facility. We should, you see that money and you gotta use it somewhere else, but it should just go into an account that says, this, we're gonna do a new roof, we're gonna do a new roof, or when you see, for example, you see this right here, we could be saying, well, we've saved enough money for 4 years, and we're coming to you saying, can we tap that, and can we buy all of that? In an ideal world, with those projects and everything, that's how I'd like to see it, but we'll take it, we'll take it as it comes like that, so, I'm really excited about that.
Your motion,
I'll make the motion.
a second. For any discussion? And Ray, hurry up, call the roll.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten? Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you. Agenda item A6,
That would be the approval and creation of a CSEA Level 16 Airport Operation and Maintenance Specialist Supervisory position. I'll let Stephanie handle this one.
Fight for your
I gotta get it right.
It's the biggest increase, that's why she.
Well, this position we've discussed several times. There is no assistant operations manager when I'm gone. It's required by the TSA to have somebody available 24/7. I've worked with Mr. Chappell since I've gotten here. He's more than capable, and he's dedicated to the airport. This would be a working position. He would continue to do his daily work, but take on a few extra duties as necessary. He's already taken the TSA required training, and we're good with the TSA to do that, and he's on their approved list, we'll put it that way. He will handle the phone when I'm off, and I'm taking a long weekend this weekend, so please approve this because he already has the phone. And I tried to give it back twice before I left. This position will help the airport out, help me out tremendously, give me a chance to take a break when I need one. And as I said, Mr. Chappell's more than capable, very dedicated. This position was put, I believe, in the budget, this coming up budget, so the salary for this budget was already included.
yes.
That's right.
Now, let's be clear on this. Since you've been here, you've had to respond to any and every call since day one since you've been here to the airport.
For over a year.
Now, when you were on vacation or I mean, down where you're from originally, you were on call,
Correct.
so you were never really, in my
Phone went
eyes,
with you.
on
Yes, the
vacation.
phone. Yes,
And, as far as I'm concerned, we need to keep you here. And if this helps to keep you here, give you time off, as you should have, as everyone here should have, except maybe Steve.
I was gonna say,
So
so we can,
yeah, so
wait a minute.
Keep going, you're good.
Now, this is needed, there's no question about it, I think it's part of, as you said, Stephanie, this is what we have to do,
Mhm.
and it allows for, I think, the coverage at the airport that we need.
Yes, the coverage we have right now is minimal. We don't work a 40-hour work week. We work 24/7, but we work from 4 AM until 8 PM, hopefully, 7 days a week. The firefighter who is on duty cannot leave until that last aircraft lands. And sometimes that's the SkyWest from Chicago, sometimes it's at 7:30, sometimes it's at 2:30 in the morning the following day. So coverage is critical, we have very little overlap, and it's mostly a one-man operation all the time. Mr. Chappell taking over a lot more of the administrative duties helps me. And I think it helps too that he gets a taste of some of these issues. It gives him a better understanding, which he will pass on to the rest of the, rest of the group. So I think it is a good position. It, heaven forbid I fall and break a leg or something.
I can't do that.
Don't you dare.
Can't do that.
No. I'll be honest, I've fallen twice this year, and I'm now given a clear path right to the front of the building, and they shovel the walk for me to make sure, because they don't want me to be falling.
Nobody wants your job out of that, that's the problem.
That's pretty much
Extra
it, that's
privilege.
pretty much it. He took the phone at 12 today and tried to give it back twice before I came here, so it didn't work too well.
This is long overdue, and we really appreciate you sticking through the last year to even get to this point.
Well, quite frankly, I enjoy the job very much. I really want to see the airport grow, and I'm mentally invested in the airport right now.
Yes.
I really do enjoy it, but I do need some help, and
And you should
Mr.
have-
Chappell is more than capable, and he deserves this kind of a promotion.
I'll move it. Oh, go ahead.
No, you moved,
I'll move the resolution.
she moved, you second it?
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion is, I think part of the other reason why you need help out there is you need to cook more of those brownies.
There's some,
There's something
Sam's
I
always
heard,
got
that's
like a
something I heard, yeah.
little something.
Yeah. No, it's obviously needed. Again, I've seen the work that's done out there, it's just amazing. And the fact that Stephanie's been there for us forever is just tough.
We appreciate it.
Long overdue. Anne Marie, any other discussion? None? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Witten?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Agenda item A7.
Yes, that's the approval purchase of the New Deal Blend Runway de-icer. If you'll recall, back in September, you approved, because of the cost involved, you approved Stephanie for purchase for de-icing, and basically we're just doing this again. Hopefully, we have 3 bags, but hopefully we won't have to use it, but we're at our limit for the past resolution, so Stephanie just thought that, we ought to get this approved. It's still under what we spent in previous years, but it is costly, and it's also, whenever you need it, it's always a problem out the airport, and so we don't want that, but, we need to be responsible, and if we do need it, we will get it. And you wanna add anything to that?
No, it's just so far, is the The usage for the year was added to the bottom of this, so you can see what we've used this year.
Yes, yes.
So you can see how we've used it and what we've used it for. And I hope won't be using this new resolution until September of next year.
It will hold.
Pardon?
It will hold until the next year. You just
Oh, yes, it does.
Does the price usually go up on it in the year? or
It goes up
does
a
it-
little bit from one year to the next.
Is this the only vendor in our area?
Yes,
Main vendor, right?
it is the vendor. It is a
Sole
special,
source kind of,
It's also.
Right.
yeah, it's a sole source and it's a particular blend. I've been talking with folks here in the north, and a lot of the airports use this because of our particular weather situation. It works better than a lot of the other de-ice chemicals.
Good, good. Excellent. Your motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Motion carried.
other such matters.
Agenda item D1.
Other such matters, approval and handling of storage agreement with GSL Grain Saint Laurent. They're a new customer, and it's a port handling storage agreement, and you can see the rates, terms, and conditions you see before you there.
Do you have any idea how many tons they're talking about?
Right now, I think it's anywhere from 4,000 to 8,000, which isn't
Okay.
a lot, but you don't know.
4,000 to
when-
8,000 more than we had?
Exactly, and we're here, and the one advantage to this, it's not coming in by rail, it's coming in by truck, so that reduces some of our costs there, so we were able to give a pretty good rate there, and,
This
It's a
coming over
fair
the
rate.
bridge?
what's that?
Coming over the bridge?
Good question, I think so. I hope it's our bridge.
Oh, of course.
I-
Anne Marie, you better work on that design.
Yeah, anyway, yeah, and it may be going back there, I think, as a depot, they'll bring it in by truck and we'll stockpile it and then they'll send it out,
Good,
so.
good.
It's another customer, so
Right,
we'll take it.
absolutely. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. King, are you aware of this group? Have you dealt with them before?
No, but I think I know who they are.
Okay.
Am I aware? Yes, but I dealt with them, no. It's all good.
Emery, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whitten? Yes. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
How about setting a next meeting date?
Before we do that.
Oh, excuse me.
I have two things. One is, I attended a regional labor council meeting that I sit on, and the commissioner of labor was there, Commissioner Reardon. And she gave a presentation on the governor's budget, and I don't know how I missed it from before, but one of the slides contained the fact that in the governor's budget, there is a proposal for 17.3 million to come to the Augsburg Bridge and Port Authority for steel replacement on the bridge. So that is included in his budget. I thanked her, asked her to thank him for including us in the budget for that amount. We'll certainly gladly take it if his budget is passed as is. And I would hope that our local officials in the Assembly and the Senate realize that that is something very favorable to the Bridge and Port Authority, and they would look favorable upon that part of the budget. And that is good. We're waiting for a little clarification on the 18 million.
I haven't had the feedback, but I talked to the region and they're looking into it. I had one last discussion to see if I could get an answer, and how they work, they weren't quite sure on it either. They couldn't, the trouble is the numbers are so close. If one was 9 million and 25, we definitely know that they aren't talking about the same pot of money. The one thing that kind of needs me is that our original grant, we're at about 18 million. We have with what we're doing in the next year and a half, part of that is almost 11 million of that is federal money. So I would wonder why, unless the funding goes through the state and they include that, but that was the question we couldn't,
Yeah, it's my understanding it's from two different pots.
okay. Well,
That the 18 million is something that already happened last year or the year before, and it's part of a certain plan,
mhm,
where this 17.3 million is completely different.
okay.
It's my understanding.
When you did ask me if we had received any notification of that, we will receive it for our project within the next 10 days
Good.
from the DOT.
Good.
So that'll define everything right there, so we'll know about that, and then they're gonna check into the other, and I did say, we'd like some form of notification,
Yes.
but I said it nicely.
Yeah.
I didn't-
And how we could use that
We
money,
definitely could use that.
especially if we could use 200,000 of it somewhere else. The application for the second round for airport funding, as Jeff had mentioned earlier, you're starting to put a plan together?
Yes.
Good, good. And your additional homework are those two airlines that he mentioned that I think we need to make contact with as soon as possible.
I need to bring up something. I've been getting a lot of things from the Jumpstart people,
Mhm.
and I know Wade attended. I don't, it's coming to me, but I didn't, I'm asking you right now. I wanted to ask you sooner, but I think that would be something that would fit perfectly. It's in Reno, Nevada, but I think we've always budgeted for that, but I think that would be something that Stephanie should attend. I would be interested in it, but that wouldn't be a value. You'd have more value with her going, but I was gonna talk to her about it, but when they brought up Breeze and
Right.
WestJet and all of that,
Yes.
we might as well just talk about it now, so, but, I don't know when it's, I think it's June, maybe, but it's in Reno.
Okay.
I'll send you that. I did talk to the coordinator there and asked what needed to be done, and you've got to make your list of what airlines, they have a dating kind of match thing, so that would have to
It's speed dating.
be dating for airports.
Speed dating for-
But also,
That's what it is.
we were registered last year as an airport there,
Right.
so I'll send you that.
I know Wade spoke with Allegiant last year. I'll have to dig out my notes from when I spoke with Wade.
Well,
A
you
year ago.
do what you think you need to do too, so.
Okay, but I know, yeah, I'd like to see where he's looking, and I have reached out to an old colleague of mine who did this for a living.
Good.
And she gave me some good notes on a few things, and when we have time sometime, I can sit down with you all and talk about what she has said.
Good.
So,
Look forward to that.
mhm.
I think in the meantime, you should start to save your quarters.
Pick up pennies off the ground.
Patty's working those
They
days.
do work.
Really?
Penny's lots.
Been there.
Never been there.
Reno?
You're not gonna win big.
So, that's what I had for other matters. I thought I needed to make everyone aware of the 17.3 million. Again, it's my understanding it's not part of the 18 that, we were told we would have last year. How much of that 18, and I know 8 of it was originally earmarked for the port expansion. Is that gonna be the case now? Who knows? The 10 million on the bridge, we can certainly use that in addition to the 17. If we had over $20 million to spend on improving the bridge, this year and next year, that would be,
It would put us a long way to,
Amazing.
that would be
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do a lot of fixing.
Yeah,
It would.
so hopefully,
Guys,
that being the
What?
case, we
sounds-
certainly,
guys, busy.
certainly thank the governor for thinking about us in his budget, so. Now, for the next meeting dates. And I don't have any, more to report on, our additional 3 members, other than to know that, they're going through the appointment process, but they haven't reached the state senate yet, so. As of yesterday, I don't know if anything happened today or not, but we're still hoping that, that happens sooner than later. So, March 12th, 3:30,
Can't do 3:30.
okay,
I can do 5, I'll be coming out of Syracuse, so apologize.
that work
Try fast.
for anybody else? Chris?
I can make that work,
You can make, okay,
that's
all
right.
right. Megan?
So Thursday the 12th?
Yes, at 5,
5 p.m.
right?
My apologies as well.
And Ray just have to have dinner ready earlier on.
And then how do you feel about, I'd like to have either, I really would like this Finance and Facilities Committee meeting between the now and the next,
Oh,
I
there's
know.
2 chairs.
would you like Anne Marie just to throw out some dates to you that,
Well, finance is normally the last Monday.
Right.
So if that still works.
I still have that for, you're talking
finance-
February?
Yeah, yeah,
the last
the
Monday?
I
twenty-fourth.
still have that in the 24th.
Yeah.
No,
You got in your time then?
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
Okay, good,
Chris, you good with
good
that?
to know.
Yeah.
but Dave, you're the chair of the facilities.
Who's my committee anymore?
Whoever you need catching fish. Catch us, catch a can.
All but one of you has to show up.
Maybe you should ask who's not gonna be
Yeah.
there.
When do you wanna do it? I mean, I don't know what
Who
time
is
do
it,
we
you,
have.
me, I don't
Would
know.
it,
I
are
believe
you
it
gonna
was
be for
Joe.
both of them? The finance and the
So-
facilities?
I do, so I could do the
Why don't we-
24th if we
We
want.
could do both,
We
because
do both. That's fine.
Mr.
They won't-
Adriano was the other member
Right,
of,
that's right.
facilities,
Yeah.
and he's no longer here, so you can step in as the other member.
I
Perfect.
think
So,
that sounds
Yeah,
fine.
we'll just split the time there and,
Just
Try not to
immediately
do-
following the finance committee.
correct.
Yes.
And just the way that, we'll start that meeting immediately following just what you were saying.
Yeah.
You're very good.
You don't have to wait around, the case don't take too long.
That's right. Perfect.
Is that on?
Anything else?
the one?
Executive session.
Is there a need for
There
executive
is a
session?
need to go into executive session for matters relating to section 105, section D, and discussion regarding proposed and pending current litigation, and section F, matters relating to appointment and employment of a particular person.
Okay,
I'll move to go to executive session.
well, before we do that, you're not always here, but we appreciate it when you
Yes.
are. Is there a specific question you would like to ask any of us before we go into executive session?
Not right now. I'd like to talk to you next week if I could.
Absolutely. You have my contact information?
I don't think I do.
Anne Marie?
I can
You
send
see
it
Just
to you.
email it to me, yeah. Okay, great.
And if there's any results out of the executive session, we'll
You just let me know.
Okay,
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks for
Yep.
coming.
thank you. I'd like to see, you're free to go. Stephanie and Anne Marie, we just stay for a few things.
Right, so we have the motion to adjourn,
Second.
to go into executive session. And a second,
Second.
Ray? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, we're in executive session. Second.